Picture this. It's July 25th, 2025. You sit down at your laptop to browse Reddit during your lunch break. You click on a link to a news discussion about current world events. And suddenly, your screen changes. A message appears. Age verification required. Please upload your government ID or take a selfie to continue. You aren't trying to access anything inappropriate. You're trying to read news commentary. But under Britain's new Online Safety Act, even Reddit now requires government-issued identification to access what they classify as mature content, which includes serious news discussions about world events and politics. Welcome to the New Britain. Today, we're going to tell you the story of how the country that gave the world the Magna Carta quietly transformed into something else entirely, and it all happened under the banner of protecting children. Let me ask you something. If you wanted to impose unprecedented censorship and surveillance on a free society, what would be the perfect excuse? The answer is simple: protecting children. It's one of those arguments that stops all debates. Who would possibly be against protecting children, right? It's political kryptonite. Question these measures and you're immediately painted as someone who doesn't care about children's safety. This is exactly what happened in Britain. The Online Safety Act didn't arrive with jackboots and authoritarian declarations. It came wrapped in warm embrace of child protection, with politicians across the political spectrum competing to show who cared more about keeping children safe online. But here's what actually happened when the act went into full effect on July 25th, 2025. Reddit users across the UK suddenly found themselves locked out of vast swaths of content unless they provided government-issued IDs or took a selfie via identity verification firm persona. We're not talking about explicit adult content here. We're talking about mature discussions about politics, war, social issues, and other current events. Want to read a thread about mental health struggles? ID required. Want to engage in discussions about social issues? Gotta upload your passport. Want to see uncensored footage of events happening around the world we live in? The government needs to verify who you are first. The Electronic Frontier Foundation called the rollout chaotic and disastrous, noting countless problems immediately revealed themselves. But from the government's perspective, this wasn't a bug, this is a feature. Think about what this really means. The government now has a database of who exactly is interested in reading about controversial political topics. They know which of their citizens are seeking out alternative viewpoints, questioning official narratives, or engaging with content that challenges the status quo. But Reddit was just the beginning. X, TikTok, Meta platforms, including Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube, all had to implement similar systems. The definition of what requires age verification keeps expanding. Here's where the protecting children narrative falls apart completely. Young people are now prevented from accessing information, speaking to each other about serious topics, and expressing themselves online because the government is making decisions about what speech is permissible. During major international news events, British teenagers, some just months away from voting age, are being blocked from accessing the same information their peers in France, Germany, or Canada can view freely. How exactly does this protect them? Or is protection not really the point? Here's the fascinating part about this story. VPN providers reported a massive surge in usage immediately after the age verification requirements took effect. Suddenly, thousands of British citizens are routing their internet traffic through other countries just to access the same content that they could freely view a few weeks earlier. Remember how this started with protecting children from pornography? Watch how quickly the definitions expanded. Today, age verification is required for news discussions about world events and current affairs, political commentary and debate, mental health support communities, content about historical events, discussions about social issues, and alternative news sources and independent journalism. Tomorrow, the legislation is written so broadly that virtually any content could be deemed inappropriate for minors if it's considered potentially harmful to their psychological development. Who makes these decisions? Not parents, not communities, not even independent experts. Government regulators working hand in hand with platform moderators decide what British citizens can freely access. Let's talk about what this system actually creates. The most comprehensive surveillance database in British history. Every time someone uploads their ID to access age-restricted content, multiple pieces of information are collected and potentially shared. You share your real identification tied to your online activity, which controversial topics you're interested in, what alternative viewpoints you seek out. This data doesn't just disappear. It's sorted, analyzed, and it's available to authorities. Privacy experts have warned that online age verification technology is not as mature and safe as government and regulators would like it to be. But the system was rolled out anyways. Here's what makes this even more tragic. Britain now has some of the strictest rules in the world for age verification. Countries that Britain once criticized for internet censorship are now looking at the UK as a model. When authoritarian governments around the world want to justify their own internet restrictions, they point to Britain and say, even the birthplace of parliamentary democracy thinks government ID should be required to access political discussions online. The cruel irony is the system is actively harming the very children it claims to protect. Young people dealing with mental health issues are cut off from peer support communities. Students researching current events for school projects hit government-imposed barriers when trying to understand the world around them. Meanwhile, actual predators and those seeking truly harmful content have simply moved to encrypted platforms or the dark web, completely bypassing these restrictions entirely. The system is maximally effective at censoring legitimate education and political content, and minimally effective at addressing the actual harms it was supposedly designed to prevent. What we're witnessing in Britain isn't just about internet restrictions. It's about how a system designed to protect children is actually putting everyone at greater risk. Think about the historical precedent this sets. In pre-internet times, you could walk into any library, any bookstore, any newsstand, and read whatever you wanted anonymously. The fundamental right to seek out information without governmental monitoring has been eliminated in Britain. This system is making British citizens less safe, not more. By forcing people to upload their government IDs to American companies with weaker data protection laws, the UK has created the largest identity theft risk in history. Millions of British passports, driver's license, and personal details are now being stored by foreign corporations, which could be hacked, subpoenaed by foreign governments, or simply sold to data brokers. The very children this system claims to protect are being forced to upload their most sensitive personal information to access educational content. Teenagers researching school projects must surrender their privacy to read about historical events or current affairs. Is this really protecting them? Or is it teaching them that privacy is something that should be traded away for basic access to information? And it's spreading. The Electronic Frontier Foundation specifically warned Americans that they must work to avoid this age-verified future at all costs, because other governments are watching Britain's experiment with great interest. So, here are the questions we need to ask ourselves. If the government needs to verify identity before you can read political discussions, are we really living in a free society? When officials expand the definition of harmful to children to include news about international conflicts, are they protecting kids or just controlling information? If you need the government's permission to access alternative viewpoints or different opinions, what happens to democratic debate? And more importantly, if we accept these restrictions now, in the name of child safety, what restrictions will we have to accept next? You have a choice to make. You could upload your government ID, adding your real identity to the database of people interested in controversial political topics, or you could use a VPN and risk potential future penalties for circumventing government restrictions. Or you could simply stop seeking out challenging information and stick to approved sources. Millions of British citizens are making similar choices every day now. Each choice shapes the kind of society Britain will become. The stories of British freedom didn't end with a dramatic raid or book burnings. It ended in a simple message on a screen. Age verification required. Please upload your government ID to continue. What story will your country write? And what will you do when that message appears on your screen? Let me know in the comments what you think about Britain's transformation. Have you been affected by these changes? Are some similar measures being discussed where you live? And remember, the price of freedom isn't just eternal vigilance, it's the courage to say no when governments ask for just a little bit more control, especially when they promise it's for our own good. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. That is assuming we're both still free to have this conversation.